Libyan forces who've received some training from the US military have been calling in airstrikes to assist their efforts to oust ISIL from Sirte. The move appears to be working in their favour, with Libyan forces announcing they've taken over a large convention centre in the coastal city. President Barack Obama has been offering an open-ended commitment.
At the request of Libya's government of national accord, we are conducting strikes in support of government-aligned forces as they fight to retake Sirte from ISIL, and we will continue to support the government's efforts to secure their country.
US Special Forces have been on the ground in Libya for months, establishing relationships, assisting with training and gathering intelligence. But this is the most significant coordinated action to date.
And so this is an opportunity to give a push to some of those local ground forces on the ground as they attempt to contain and hopefully snuff out the forces near Sirte. So they are doing it. There is strain. The ammunition, all of that is holding because we put our best forces forward.
But despite this apparent success, some military experts have cautioned against becoming overly optimistic, especially given the complex factional politics in Libya.
And I'm not going to claim that just because we've, deployed a few more resources or had some temporary tactical progress, that therefore we're becoming wise about this problem. Because I've seen other cases in the broader Middle East when we've had seemingly successful short-term objectives be realized, and then the whole thing fell apart later.
US defense chiefs have also indicated that more enhanced military assistance is contingent on the ability of the UN-backed government of national accord to build stronger political unity in Libya. And in a telling statement issued on Wednesday, the US and several European powers have expressed concerns about reports of increased tensions at the Zueitina oil facility, urging all powers to refrain from hostilities, which they say is in the interests of all Libyans. Daniel Ryntjes, CCTV, Washington.
Well, let's get you more on these latest developments coming out of Libya. I'm joined live now from Cairo by CCTV's Yasser Hakim, and also joining us is CCTV's Daniel Ryntjes live in Washington. Yasser, let's start with you. We heard there in Daniel's report that experts are warning against being overly optimistic, but we have seen some progress, and in particular Libyan forces making gains against ISIL in Sirte. Just update us on the latest coming out of the city.
Yes, Uche, and this warning is quite true, that to be over-optimistic at this point is a bit too early, especially that in spite of these significant gains, just today on Thursday, 18 soldiers from the Libyan army were killed in two separate incidents. One of them was a suicide bomb attack, and another one was from a sniper, and over 82 were injured, and that's because yes, the Libyan army is taking over larger swaths of Sirte, the main stronghold of ISIL, and they've taken over as well the university, which is a headquarter that had a lot of headquarter offices there. That was taken over on Thursday, and what the Libyan officials are saying is that they're consolidating their power over the areas they have controlled. But the problem is that ISIL is in the city, and it's a kind of a street-to-street war. It's very hard for an army to go into that type of combat operations, where you have landmines all over the city, you have suicide attackers, you have snipers, and this makes it tougher for an army to really control the area. And that's what the Libyan army officials have been saying on Thursday. There's still a lot to be done to take over the city, in spite of the significant gains in the last few days.
Well, as you say there, of course, Yasser, that it is a challenging combat operation. But Daniel, it's clear that the intervention of foreign powers has made a difference. However, of course, we can't forget that, we can't forget what happened last time foreign powers intervened in Libya. It, of course, led to a crisis. Will the United States be doing things differently this time around?
That's right. President Obama, the campaigner as a reluctant warrior in the broader Middle East, nonetheless put his name to the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi. And then we had the incident in 2012 when the US compounds in Benghazi were stormed, and there was a huge political feedback to the Obama administration and to then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton over the handling of that. Then we saw a period in which Washington really disengaged from Libya and is now paying the price for that because of the fact that they could no longer ignore the fact that the political vacuum and the chaos that ensued encouraged the rise of the Islamic State organization, ISIL, in some areas of Libya. It was something they could no longer avoid. President Obama got several military recommendations over the last few months as to what to do about this. Now we're starting to see the edges of the US military strategy going forward. But this is by no means the sort of large-scale shock and awe type of military affair that we've seen in the past. They've had their fingers burnt. And I think this is a much more contained strategy to try to bring about some optimism within a select number of Libyan forces. But we are, I think, at the very early stages of this type of joint operations.
At the very early stages indeed. But of course, Yasser, coming back to you, Egypt knows all too well the impact of that post-Gaddafi political vacuum. And of course, as a result, has been playing a significant role in the fight against ISIL in Libya. That included some airstrikes a few months ago. What is Cairo's plan in the long run in all of this?
Well, first of all, Egypt said it welcomed the U.S. airstrikes because it came from a request by the Libyan government. But Egypt has been known to be a supporter not of GNA or Fayez Sarraj, but of the other side, that's Khalifa Haftar, who has his own national army, which is not on good terms with Haftar, with Sarraj, the GNA. But Egypt is obviously has been silent throughout the last few days. But it has received and met with the officials, with Fayez Sarraj himself, with his deputy who's in Cairo right now, Ma'atig. And at this point, what the Egyptians want is that, first of all, to ensure that there is unity between all the Libyan factions, or all the Libyan political parties and forces, so that when, on the long term, like you say, when this war is over and hopefully ISIL is out, we don't find divisions between the Libyan forces themselves and the Libyan politicians. And as well, part two is that to make sure that you have what we know is around 5,000 to 6,000 ISIL fighters. Where are they going? The ones that have left Sirte or are fighting in Sirte will probably escape into the desert, maybe spill over into Egypt or Tunisia, maybe to Europe. With the illegal migration surging in the last few months. So Egypt has been working with the Libyan authorities to control the borders as well, and also to control illegal migration, and at the same time has been giving its intelligence support, technical support, training and logistical coordination with the Libyans. But at the very end, what it wants is that the US airstrikes would be contained, would be controlled, and would be only to get ISIL out of Sirte and not to continue on a long-term operation.
Daniel, let's come back to you now just for a moment. That issue of porous borders in Libya, of course, a major concern for Europe too. How closely is the United States working with European nations when it comes to this intervention, and is it well coordinated?
Well, I suspect that in terms of the details of strikes and calling in those strikes, I don't think the Americans are going to need the Europeans on these kind of operations, because they've found some people on the ground that they think can call in those strikes and give accurate coordinates, and therefore act on that in a very step-by-step piecemeal way. But having said all of that, we know that the Europeans are very invested in this. The Italians said they might be willing to send in a major force, but they've since drawn back from that, realizing the pragmatic and political dimensions. But we certainly know that French forces have been on the ground, because recently several were killed and they had to announce the presence of those forces. We know some UK special forces are there, perhaps some Italians as well. Their job, as well as the American special forces, really is to work out who they can trust on the ground and try to find a way to work pragmatically. I think on the political level, they're all saying that the unity government is what they're invested in, and for good reason. But at the same time, I think pragmatically speaking, they're also picking out regional factions that they think they can work with going forward on a practical basis in order to ensure that the Islamic State organization ISIL does not have the kind of foothold that they want. This is not going to be an easy job. It's going to be long and hard and very, very tricky. That's why I think they're investing so much in these intelligence forces to try to work out what they can do and when.
Indeed, a very long, hard and complicated battle against ISIL in Libya that lies ahead. Thanks very much to Daniel, Ryntjes and Yasser Hakim for that update.